Hi everybody and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the Bandai 176 scale X-Wing Starfighter. Okay, so what I did last episode was steps 1 and 2, both of them being identical. Just one segment of the S-foil and the other. So the next part, step 3, is actually putting them together. Step 4 is putting the front and back ends on there. And then you jump over to step 5, which is over here, which is where we began work on the cockpit area. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to assemble these parts here. And the reason being is I want to get some color on them first. And because I want to paint, decal, and weather the inside part of the wings before, I want to do this part in here before I assemble it, because it'll be kind of hard to get in there and do that when it's already assembled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, I'm going to put a base coat of XF1 flat black. Now normally I use primer and then paint, but in this case I don't want to use primer just because the primer tends to be a little bit thicker than the paint, and the tolerances are really super tight on this, and I don't want to have to deal with any of that. So I'm just going to use flat black as kind of a base coat, and then once I do that, then I can start painting stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this flat black, and then I'm also going to do the inside of the cockpit and probably this part right here in flat black, as well as the top of the inside of the cockpit near the front, be kind of over the instrument panel. I'm going to paint this as well. That way it'll be ready to go. As a matter of fact, I might even put that in position where it goes right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the instructions a little bit and kind of determine what I'm going to do, and then I'll come back and we'll get cracking. Okay, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut off part number 18. Part number 18, and then number 15 is the part that goes right there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this part off, but I'm not going to install it. I'm going to put it on the end of a toothpick or something for painting. Some of these parts will be a little hard to get to paint. Yeah, because this part here, actually I think I will put that together, because yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that together. I'm not going to put the seat or the control stick in, because I want to be able to paint those before I insert them. So this just is going to slide in there like that. Oh yeah, that's fine. And then get a little bit of glue here. Not really necessary, this part's pretty tight, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, so we got that part. So let's see what parts. Now there's some decals that go in there, and I'll be doing that later. That's why I want to kind of do this first before I put this into the cockpit, because I want to be able to put the decals on there without a lot of faffing about, as our some of our British friends say. So we got that. I'll save the seat and the control stick We will not be doing the decals. Okay, so let's get A25, A26, and A20. Oh, that's B. A25, 26, 20. Those in place, or cut off, and then the other part was a 20. Let's see, there's 12. Well, I'm having a hard time finding 20. Oh, there it is. It's one of the red ones. Interesting. Okay, now, see, this is where if you were actually building the kit in the box, the scheme in the box, which is red 5, you wouldn't even have to paint this stuff. You just stick it in place and it's ready to roll. But since I'm not going to worry about it, and it's going to get painted over with my base coat, then taped off and painted the appropriate color in the appropriate spots. So we got that. Oh, very nice. Let's see. Now, if you'll notice, 20 and 21, or see, is it 20 and 20? No, 25 and 26 are really similar in appearance. And normally I wouldn't cut them both off, except for the fact that they are quite a bit different as far as shape and the way they fit on. So let's see here. Yeah, so you have a small, okay, hold on. Yeah, so you have a small and a large pin. So see, that fits like that. And then this one will fit like that. Yep. And then this piece here fits here like that. So let's get those, get a little bit of glue on there. Get that pushed into place. We'll do the same over here. There and there. Just like that. Okay. And then this part will go here. There's like a little lip that goes in front of that part there, so it fits on there really nice and snug. And just put a little cement in there. And voila. So that takes care of this little sub-assembly here. So then, let's see, the next parts we need are 1 and 2 will go here. So let's get 1. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 and 2. 19. It says to do part 19 first, part 31 second. So we need A19. And that is right there. It's a white panel. I mixed up the color I'm going to use for this, and I'll show you what it is in a little while. And how I'm going to handle it. Because I looked around and it's as bad as World War II Luftwaffe colors, RLM colors, and what is the correct color. There are different mixes, there are different brands, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of agreement. So, seeing as how it's sci-fi, I'm just going to do my thing. All right, so now it's showing right here, it's indicating with these little spiffy arrow things that this bulgy part needs to go forward. So that fits with that pin right there in that hole, and then this part right here fits in that gap, just like that. Okay, so let's get some cement on there. There and there should be good, and then get it pushed into place nice and snug like that. See how that's red there and then that's white? Mine will be a little bit different. So next we need A31, which goes in front of this A31, and that is another red piece. So let's get that cut off. Get that little bit of a burr off there. And then this fits here now. It's a really nice snug fit, but I think what I'm going to do, in this case, I'm not going to glue this into place yet. It does have just a little bit of play, and I want to make sure that when I put it together, it's not cemented in there and not movable. All right, so then we whip it around here. This back part here is A29, and that's the first one I'm supposed to put in there, and that is a white piece. That. Make sure that is smooth. Okay. Now that one, same thing. It indicates that this large piece here has to go forward. So make sure that sanded smooth. Okay, and that goes a pin and a hole there. And then this little tab, or this little segment here, goes in there. And then another pin and hole there. Again, really nice fit. Some cement on there. And squeeze it together really well. Just like that. Okay. So that takes care of that basically takes care of all of step 5. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Still got part 21 to do, which is this red one. Boy, I'm just getting ahead of myself here. jumping the gun, as they say. Well, it's cut off really good. All right, and then this one indicates that the large in the middle and the smaller piece up front goes towards the front. So this, again, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm not going to, there's a pin and one hole. I'm not going to glue that one together because there is a little bit of movement there. So I'll just put it on there like that. Okay, and that finishes up step 5. Okay, with that, I think it's safe to do a little bit of paint. So I'm going to spray the inside of this cockpit area here. And what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to use some masking tape to cover up where the pins are, because I don't want to get any paint in there and potentially cause a problem with assembly later. So I'm just using some 6mm Tamiya tape and just gonna mask that off like that. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as I keep those holes covered up like that. And then put a piece across here like this, and that'll protect all of those spots. All right, so we got that. Now what else I want to do is I want to put a piece of tape around this post here so it doesn't get a bunch of paint on it, because I want the X-wing, the other S-foil to go on there easily. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm all crazy. There we go. Okay, so we'll do that like that. And then basically just pull this up like that, and that one up like that, and that should protect it good enough to keep any paint from getting on that. I'll trim off this little bit of extra here like that. Okay, so I think with that we should be good to start with some paint. All right, for this paint job I'm going to use my Neo for Iwata TRN1 double action, 15 psi, my normal spraying pressure. So what I'm also going to do, you know what, before I get too crazy here, I'm going to add a little bit more masking tape to this part here. Or stuff assembles together. So I want to paint the inside. I want to base coat that black as well. Like that. And tra-la-la. Good to go. All right, so we're ready to go. Base coat XF1. I've already stirred it up really well. I think I might also, I think I'm going to paint this part as well, which is the part that goes on the front here. That way it's done and I don't have to wait to paint again, because that's going to be a dark color there. I may have to paint some other stuff later. I'm trying to make some sense out of this, but you know, sometimes don't always get it painted correctly. All right, so there's that. There's that. There's these. All right, ready to go. So let's see. Let's get. All right, ready to go. So let me get some paint. Let me get my paint and my thinner mixed up, and then we'll get cracking. All right, so here we go. There is that. Okay, got the cockpit. Now let's get in here. Looks pretty good. All right, now for the big stuff, the wings. Another reason I'm using a black base on this is it will help with kind of some like shadowy type stuff, and also it will ensure that I get a good coat of paint on here because I'll be using a really light color, and if I don't have a good black base on here, I could miss stuff and not see it till it's too late. That's looking pretty good. Whenever I spray my lighter color on, I'm going to be spraying it on thinner too than this, and it should get some really nice, the panel line should show up really nicely without having to do a whole lot of panel line washing and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing here and how I'm accomplishing it. It's just all going to be a real basic black coat. So I am not going to video all of this painting part. Basically, I'm just going to be doing the same thing on the rest of it. So I'm going to turn this off, keep painting, and come back. All right, so I got these parts are done with the base black, as well as these parts, but those parts I'm not going to be dealing with right now. So the next part I want to do is spray my RLM 66, and I'll also need to spray the seat and the control stick. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those off, and then that way I can put them on the end of a stick or something. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it here. Oh, it's already apart. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this here and use that as my handle. Like that. So then I can paint that. Now, here's something else to note, that there is no flipping visible seam line on here. Very, very faint on this flat part here, but man, the molding on these things is just incredible. And for you people that build these all the time, you're probably thinking, yeah, big deal. So, well, I haven't built one before, and it's pretty stinking crazy, I'm telling you. Okay, so I got that. Then I need to cut the seat off. And what I'll be able to do with that is I'll be able to clip onto these parts that go on the floor. First, I want to, not that you'd be able to see it in the cockpit, but sand the side. There is a little bit of a seam line there, but mainly I want to sand the where the runner was attached to it, just like that. All right, so that's good. So then we'll clip that on here like that. All right, so we're good to go. So I'm going to spray the inside of this, and these two parts in my RLM 66. And then once that dries, I'll be able to put the decals on. So get the handy dandy Neo for Iwata or whatever. And my awesome pre-mixed paint here. These little bottles I bought online for really super cheap. I'm going to buy some more because I've discovered I didn't buy more to begin with because I wasn't sure how well of a seal that they made for long-term storage of colors. Well, this RLM 66 I mixed up a couple of years ago, and it is still perfectly mixed and ready to go. Now, part of the reason this may be a little bit light for the interior, but I'm thinking it's going to help with the visibility of the inside of the cockpit, and I think it'll look pretty good. So yeah, it looks pretty good. I like that. It's way better than black. All right, so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and paint these other parts, and then we'll come back. Okay, before I get too much further on the interior stuff here and putting that all together, I need to paint the figure, because from the looks of the assembly, he won't be able to be put into place after everything is together. This part right here is kind of snug right there, and you wouldn't be able to, you know, stick him through onto the seat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a batch of orange paint, and I'm basically going to paint the whole thing orange, and then I'll detail paint everything else I need to paint because his uniform is orange. So the first thing I want to do is mix up my paint. So what I'm going to do through the magic of color mixing, I'm going to mix some X7, which is gloss red, and XF3, which is flat yellow. The reason I'm doing that is because I want just a little bit of gloss to the uniform for whenever I do some washes on it, and then I'll spray a flat on it. So let's see, and I'm just going to mix it in here, and I'm going to mix quite a bit. I'm not going to be stingy about mixing it because I may have to add one or the other, and I'm going to be pouring it into my airbrush, so a lot of residual is going to be stuck in the cup, and I don't want to run out. I mean, I don't think I'll run out, but you know, just got to make sure. And while I'm at it, I'll show you how I clean my pipettes. They're disposable, but I like to reuse them as many times as possible just because I don't like to be too wasteful. So basically I run it through one time in my dirty water bowl, and then use clean water to get the residual out, and it's all nice and clean. And I can do that quite a number of times before I actually have to dispose of it, but you know, that's free. I won't charge you for that one. Just a little information for you. So let's get some yellow, put that in there, do the same cleaning thing here. Okay, before I add my, well, now I'll go ahead and add my thinner. And I always use a separate one that I keep marked because I don't have to worry about cleaning that out. And I'm basically using equal parts. I'm using like 1/2 milliliter of yellow, 1/2 milliliter of red, 1/2 milliliter of thinner. Does it have to be exact? Nope, because I usually just wing it, but I figured in this case I'd try and make it somewhat organized. So let's mix it. Oh, that looks pretty good right out of the thing. Now some people may say, well, it's not orange enough or whatever. It looks good to me. That looks swinging. That is what I'm talking about. Do the same thing, cleaning my mixing brush like that. So let's cap up the old paint here so I don't end up knocking it over. Like that. XF3. And I'll put my XF1 back where it goes. Okay, so I'm good. So let's get the airbrush. Pour that in there like that. I really like that color. And then we'll spray a little bit on here like this. And then we'll spray it on this dude. Now, since I'm spraying it on a light base, it should look like a pretty good orange. Oh yeah, look at that. Now, I'm not worried about getting it all over everything else. It's not going to be painted orange because I'm going to be painting over it anyway. Make sure it's we got a good layer of orange all over wedge here. Really make sure they get it from above. So there he is. That is Wedge Antilles, stage 1. So I'll clean my airbrush and we'll come back. All right, so the next part is to do the detail painting. Now, since this is really tiny and I'm going to be using my Optivisor, I'm not going to be doing this on camera. So I'm going to work on this little bloke and get him painted up, and then I'll come back. We'll see what he looks like. All right, here is my little Wedge Antilles. He's done for the most part. And the fact that I was able to get this as much as I did in 1/72nd scale is a miracle. That was really hard painting this little tiny dude. So I'm not going to think 1/35th scale guys are that bad after all. The biggest difference between him and Luke is the helmet. I mean, at least visually. In this case, Wedge's helmet was white over the ears with the stripe down the middle, and then kind of a dark green on the remainder. He also had like a little tiny stripe that was black and yellow, but there's no way that's going to happen. So the next thing I want to do is do the decals for in here. So I think I'm going to start with decal number 50, which goes on let's see, let me see here which ones go where. All right, after looking at this a little bit, this is my first thing that I'm not real stoked with. Now, it shows 46, 50, and 21 on that side of the fuselage, and that includes here, 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 and here. Now this is a separate one by itself, which is right here. No big deal. This other one, which is number 50, can't be put in place until this is installed because part of it hangs down on the inside of the cockpit. But I can't put that in place just yet because if I do, I can't, just as I feared, I can't fit the pilot in there. So here's what I'm going to do, just for ease and sanity's sake. I'm going to put these two decals on here, here and here. I'm going to put this one on. And then I'm going to put the seat and the control stick and the pilot in place, put this in place, and then see if I'll be able to put that decal in. What I may have to do is cut part of it off and just do like the visible portion right here, which is probably the way I'm going to go. So, but let me get everything ready, my water and all that kind of stuff, and we'll do this one here first. All right, what I'm going to be using, I've got my water here. I've got my self-closing tweezers there, and then I'm going to be using Microsol and Microset. So let's cut out the first one here, which is on that side, it's 46, which is right here. Whoops, can't see it because I'm off camera. 46 right there. So let me cut it on my mat here off where you can see what's going on. I believe it's broken. So time change, get a new blade. That's just wonderful. So we'll see how these decals perform, because they look just a little thick, but we'll see how they work. Now, I've never used these before, so who knows how they're going to react as far as sliding off and all that. Get my paper towel here. All that's soaking. You know what? Let's do this. I don't need a big piece. So put that there. Get my paint stuff out of the way. Okay, so let's get this out. get one of my magical toothpicks here. See if it's ready to start sliding. Not quite yet. There it goes. All right, so that is loose. So first thing I'm going to do, micro set. Okay, put a little bit on here. Whoa, that's a bit too much. Put a little bit on there. I could have cheated and just dry brushed the details, but I really want to try the decals, so we'll see how they work. Hopefully they'll conform well to the detail. Okay, looks all right. So I'm going to squish any excess water out. So here's the real test. Let's see if this micro sol gets it to settle in well. Put some of that on there like that. We'll let that sit for a few minutes and see what happens. See if it's going to work. All right, well, that is hopefully dissolving up and settling on there like it should. I am going to take this opportunity to dry brush this surface detail here. And what I'm going to use for that, a little bit of silver. Just good old silver Model Air. And I will use this smallish brush right here because I want to make sure I don't get too much on there. And then once I get this dry brush and it dries really well, then I'll use, I'll make myself up some black wash with my oils. And this is the part of the model that just, I fall apart and everything starts getting messy when there's paint involved. Okay, get most of the silver off of there on a paper towel, and let's see how that worked. And then when I put the black on there, the black wash, it should help bring out more of the detail. Okay, that's not too bad. That'll work. Just enough to make it pop out a little bit. So there's that. Give me some water here to clean my brush. I think that's the only thing I use this brush for, is for doing dry brushing. Seems to work pretty well. Okay. So the decal's still setting up. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put the one on the other side, and I'll put the one on here. So you saw how I put that one on, so I'm not going to do them. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and do them both, just to show what's going on here. So let's do the other side of the cockpit side wall. Okay, whoops. So we'll let that soak for a second. While that one's soaking, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the one for the front instrument panel here. And let's see. Now, this is really one of those cases where it would probably be a good idea to cut it super close to the actual decal, so there's not so much carrier film hanging over the edge. So that's what I'm going to do. So I cut that right up against the edges there. And I'll cut this bottom part off. Okay, let's get this other one. Whoops, came off. Yeah, that one's loose too. But I don't let that one sit too long. So let's put that one on. So let's get the micro set. The appropriate brush for that. That on there. And then let's put that one in place. I really should have this anchored down to something heavier because this part is way too small. Yeah. Oh my word. Jeez, oh Pete, that was horrible. Doesn't help I just had a fat cup of coffee either. Okay, so now at least it's in place. These are really thick decals. So let's put the microsol on it. And I got a funny feeling that I'm going to have to do microsol a couple of times, because that first one hasn't really dissolved that much. But we'll see. Now I'll revert to the old tried and true Solvaset. All right, so that one's in place. Okay, so next let's do this one. For the front instrument panel here. See how that one works. as soon as I do that, then I want to paint the grip portion of the control stick here. I'm just going to do that with black. Let's see how this one works. Let this one sit for a second. Get softened up. Watch this, folks. Keep that from jostling around too much. Okay, let's see if that one's not loosened up yet. So we'll let that one loosen up for a second. All right, it's loosened up now. It's ready to go. So let's go to the old microset. There, and then slide that blighter right on in there like that. These decals seem just a little bit too large for where they're supposed to go. Now, I could be wrong, but it seems like they're a little bit large, but it may just be the way the carrier film ends up. So that's pretty good. Okay, that one looks like it's gonna be pretty good. Let's get the saw out. All right, so we'll set that right there. Whoops. And let that cure up a bit. All right, while those decals are setting up, I'm going to paint this grip here, which is extremely ginormous in scale comparison to these pilot's hands, but hey. I'm just using Vallejo Model Air NATO Black. It's my kind of go-to color for brush painting black colors. So there is that. So I'm going to let that paint cure up. I'm going to let these decals set up, and then I will put it all together. Okay, so I got the decals on, and I used Solvaset, and it worked out pretty good. I'm not going to say they're my favorite decals, but they actually worked pretty good. Same with that one there. That one worked really well. That one melted right into place. So that's pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got him in place. I got the control stick in. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully get this squeezed in there. Okay, there we go. Good. All right. So that's all ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I want to spray a gloss on here because I want to use a wash, but if I don't use a gloss, since this is this XF paint is really super absorbent, for lack of a better term. If you try and do a wash on here, it just kind of diffuses instead of flowing into the detail. So I'm basically going to be spraying gloss on this part here and all in here and this part, and that will allow me to do some, do a wash. And then once I'm done, I'll spray a flat over it to dull it back down. So let me get my stuff ready and I'll do the gloss. Okay, scratch the clear. I'm not going to do the clear just yet because I want to spray this the base color. Then once that's sprayed the base color, Then I can do a clear coat to do the other things I need to do, which is some the specific colors for this ship, and then I can do some weathering and stuff. So I'll wait to spray the clear on this until I'm ready to spray the clear on that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to spray this with my custom mixed color here. It's kind of a very light grayish white. Whether it's right, don't know. I'm not concerned. It's the best I could come up with. Read some different suggestions online, and there doesn't really seem to be a consensus as to what to paint it. So this is what I'm doing. What I used is XF2, which is flat white. I used 4 mil of that. Then XF19, which is sky gray. I used 2 mil of that, and then 2 mil of X20A. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I normally do. As a matter of fact, I am going to spray, or I'm going to add some X22. That way I won't have to clear this afterward, or clear coat this afterwards. What I like to do is use some clear, and it gives the paint more of a semi-gloss type thing, so it's easier to weather and stuff. So let me clean my lid off here, because I cannot stand a dirty paint bottle. Drives me insane. Now this may look a little darkish on here, but my plan is this. I'm going to spray this on there, and then I may do some light, some highlights, like maybe do a filter with just white, which will lighten it up a little bit if I need to, but we will see. So what I'm going to do here is get my clear and my, where is it, my clear, my XF22 specific dropper. And since I've got 6 mil of paint, I think I'll do 3 mil of clear. Whoops, there's some on the outside. That makes me sad. Okay, so there's that. That's 2 and 1. And I'll mix that up and come back. Okay, so I added my clear to my color, so it's ready to go. Now, what's this? You guys are seeing it here first. I got a new airbrush. It's a Sparmax. Crikey. Can't remember the name of it. Well, anyway, I'm going to be doing a review on it, so I'm not going to talk much about it now, but it is quite unique and quite cool. So watch for a review on it. Not just, ooh, this is a pretty stuff in the box. I'm going to actually be spraying with it, just like I am today. So, got my paint mixed up here. Put it in my bottle. Like that. Screw the lid on. Put it on there. And let's see what we got. All right, so here we go. Now, I would never use this type of an airbrush for really fine work, but for solid base layers, it's pretty jolly. I've monkeyed around with it a little bit already. this up a little bit, get a little bit more flow going. There we go. It's better. It's only the second time I've tried this thing, so this is a learning experience for all of us. Later on, I'll spray that on the inside. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, you see what I'm doing? So I'm not going to bore you with painting this whole thing. So I'm going to continue on painting it and we'll come back to see what we've got. Okay, so here we go. That's all painted up. So now I need to let it dry for a bit and then I can move on to working on some decals and, you know, stuff like that. But for this, I think I'll go ahead and spray my clear on this and get that ready for washes and such. So I'm going to use the same, actually I think I'm going to use my smaller airbrush for that since it's smaller. Since it's going to be a smaller spraying job and I don't want to flood it too much. So sorry about jostling the camera there, but I dropped my quick release fitting on the floor. So let's get this put back on here. All right, so then let's get my thing for clear stuff, and it's not going to take much. You know what? First, I'm going to do this. Put a little bit of X20 in here. And yes, I do mix it in the color cup sometimes. What a thug, I know. Okay. Okay, so let me excuse me, stir this up a little bit. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right, so let's just okay, I got something weird going on with this airbrush. It is releasing really slowly. So I think I looked at it once and it was doing this. So I think I'm going to have to send it in for service, which makes me quite sad. All right, so that's cleared. So I should be able to put a wash on there. Okay. All right, so let me clean this up. All right, so let's see here. I've got the gloss is dried, so I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of black wash on these parts in here. And then from there, I can do some more assembly, but I want to do this first before I start putting it together. And for my wash, I am using, like I usually do, 502 Decaling ABT 110 black. I figure that would be best in the case of this really dark gray. So I'll get my handy dandy wash brush here. Actually, I think I'll use my other one. I have one that's a little finer. It's kind of nice because it holds quite a bit of paint. Let's see what this looks like. Some of you may be saying, why are you using a brush to mix that with? Why don't you use something else? Well, I'm being gentle with it. And these brushes are actually relatively inexpensive at the old Hobby Lobby. All right, let's test this and see what it looks like. Put my cap on here so I don't spill anything else. You can see a little discoloration here. Spilled some lacquer thin earlier. And kind of weirded out this end right there, but that's okay because I can repaint that whenever I paint some other stuff. One of those hazards. Oh yeah, that looks good. Oh yeah, I like that. So I'm just doing a pin wash in here, getting it all along the edges to give it a little bit of depth. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush it ever so slightly with a lighter gray, just to give it a little more dimensionalism. And no, that's not a word, I just made that up. Product props. This 502 Decaling stuff is really good. Now I know you can get all kinds of oil paints of different varieties, but I like this pretty well. Seems to work really good. Flows really well. Works good with just, you know, odorless thinners from an art / hobby / craft store. And it works good for a number of different things. Okay, so there's that part, and let's do this over here. I don't know how much you can actually see on the camera here. I'm not sure how well it's showing up, but it's looking really good in the real lives. Okay. Yeah, see, by putting that little bit of gloss, it really helps it to flow via capillary action. Capillary action, not capillary. Capillary is a body part. Oh albeit small. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm digging it. Let's see. All right, so I think that's just about it for that. So let me clean my brush. All right, so I've got that pretty much done. So the next part I'm going to be doing is spraying the inside portions of the wings. So as far as the color specific to Red 2 Wedge Antilles ship. So I think this has already gone long enough. Not as concise as my last video, but jumping back and forth with paint and all that kind of stuff, it gets a little harder to keep it flowing. But anyway, that'll be it for now on this episode of the Bandai 1/72nd scale X-Wing Starfighter Red 2. So if you have any hints, tips, comments, all that kind of stuff, put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to respond to them. You can take any advice if anybody's got any. So thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Stay tuned. I'll have another video coming up in the near future where we'll start on paint specific stuff for this this portion. So thanks again, and I will see you all later. All right, so I've got that pretty much done. So the next part I'm going to be doing is spraying the inside portions of the wings. So as far as the color specific to Red 2 Wedge Antilles ship. So I think this has already gone long enough. Not as concise as my last video, but jumping back and forth with paint and all that kind of stuff, it gets a little harder to keep it flowing. But anyway, that'll be it for now on this episode of the Bandai 1/72nd scale X-Wing Starfighter Red 2. So if you have any hints, tips, comments, all that kind of stuff, put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to respond to them. You can take any advice if anybody's got any. So thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Stay tuned. I'll have another video coming up in the near future where we'll start on paint specific stuff for this this portion. So thanks again, and I will see you all later.